All right, Teufel Hunden hacker community. We are on the very first actual interview. So we did an episode of Teufel Hunden Hackers, the group force podcast. A while back, I did it with my co-host, Spencer Laheath. And now we have the honor to have Master Gunnery Sergeant Lagarian Smith, a personal mentor of mine, someone that I go to for advice, someone that I watch very closely, and just it is, to me, the golden standard of being a Marine, being a husband, being a father, and bettering yourself as much as you can at all steps. So definitely honored and so glad we've finally been able to catch up. It's been a while. We've had a few cancellations just due to schedule, and that's okay. But finally, we got him on a podcast. So welcome, Master Guns. Welcome to the Brute Force Podcast.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Definitely an honor to do my first Brute Force podcast and podcast in general with you. So I'm excited and thrilled to start this career trajectory in the right fashion. So thank you.
No, you have an amazing, first of all, amazing story, a lot of knowledge to share, and how we were talking even on the pre-show, pretty much, right? Like, you have these amazing conversations, whether it's at the end of a ceremony, in the hallway. I call it hallway con, essentially. And the whole piece was, I would have amazing conversations with you, and I was like, we got to get this on a podcast, recorded and bottled up, and shared with not only the Marine Corps community, but anyone who is looking to better themselves, anyone who's in cybersecurity. So first question, that I'm gonna kind of get at is the origin story. Everybody has a different story, and that's what makes the DoD and the Marine Corps especially unique and special, because everybody brings something unique. So if you want to start off with where you're from and how your origin story for the Marine Corps began.
Cue the Marvel music. It was a long time ago. No, I'm just kidding. I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. Grew up in both Montgomery, Alabama and Atlanta, Georgia. Parents, never married. So I was, grew up in Alabama with my mom, and Georgia with my father, which I think definitely contributes to who I am today because of the two different environments that I grew up in, very different environments. I'll say that as far as I'll fast forward to going to Marine Corps, and that started my junior year of high school, where I had to decide, right? I didn't have scholarships at the time, but I knew my parents couldn't afford school, neither side. So the Marine Corps, out of all the branches, was the most interesting to me because the Navy, I don't like water. I can't swim, but I don't like water. So that was an automatic no. The Air Force was very, the Air Force was the most sensible. But the problem was, and I was in Air Force ROTC, but the problem was I learned that you have to take tests to promote. You have to take a test. And for me, I'm a good test taker. So I attributed me being a good test taker to somebody else who's a good test taker, but doesn't have the work value and ethical values that I have. And I was like, that's garbage. I don't want nobody getting promoted with me that can't put in that work. They may be good at the test, and they'll still get promoted, maybe even before me in some cases. So I decided not to go to the Air Force and chose the Marine Corps. The Army was never in the equation. I just knew I wasn't going to be an Army. So but hey, real quick, the one thing I'll tell you is never say never, right? Because I remember in 8th grade, my coaches told me, Smith, you look like you're gonna be a Marine. And I remember distinctly saying, not me, coach. Them fools crazy. I ain't gonna never be a Marine. And here I am, almost 20 years in the Marine Corps, enjoying myself. Came in as a radio operator. Went to Iraq 2 weeks after getting to my unit. Was supposed to try out for the Marine Corps wrestling team, but the unit would not let me stay one more week. They were like, nah, Devil Dog, you going to war. So I didn't get to try out that year, 2004. So 2005 rolls around, Marine Corps wrestling tryouts again. And platoon sergeant's like, nah, Devil Dog, you going to war again. So I didn't get to
right back out the door.
Right back out the door. So that after that second time, I gave up on Marine Corps tryouts. Marine Corps wrestling team, and just, put my head down as a radio operator, did what I had to do for 3 tours in Iraq, one in Afghanistan as a tech controller, as a lat move. I lat moved because radio got easy, then tech control, we got to a pinnacle where we had to basically stay on the ship and sink with it or jump and move on. And I jumped ship. I jumped in the water. I was like, I'm out of here. And I jumped into cyber about, 12 years, 13 years in, I jumped to cyber, and here I am, started as a cyber local network defender, and came to Mark IV, did cyber operations, got on an offensive cyber team, jumped from there to future ops and the training at G7. And then now here I'm at CyberCom J7 doing training and exercises. And I love what I'm doing right now. It's just amazing. It's the yin to the yang of operations. Mm-hmm. So I'm here right now enjoying life as a master guns at CyberCom. That's stories there.
Storied career, absolutely storied career. And it just shows you don't know, what direction your career is going to take you. You just got to keep forging ahead, take every single billet, every responsibility as it comes, and just put your head down and work hard. What was the jump from your previous career to jumping into cyber? So being a radio operator to jumping into cyberspace operations.
So every time I jumped, I didn't jump because of a bonus. I honestly jumped because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know more. And it was just intriguing to me, some of the things we did with computers. Even as a radio operator, we did our first at LAR, we did a first transfer of a picture over a 119. And for me, that was just like, we could do that? I was like, that's cool. I think it was like 19K or something like that. It was a small win to a Viasat chat, but it worked, and so right there it kicked my hunger for and drive for learning more. So I started radio, and then started working with the techs, fixing LAR, the helmets, fixing antennas, fixing cables. And then I saw tech controllers, and I was like, what is that? And then saw these guys fixing circuit board cards and restoration for satellite links and stuff. I was like, that sounds cool. And so I jumped. They actually took a chance on me because my GT score wasn't as high as it needed to be. I needed a 115, I think it was a 112 or something along the lines, or maybe it was EL. Either way, the monitor took a chance on me and gave me that opportunity, and I left and actually undergrad at basic electronics course, and I graduated number 2 in the TechCon course. So I just wanted to learn, and then end up coming back as a tech controller instructor. And that's when I saw the writing on the wall, because we were teaching black core routing because serial communications was coming to an end and everything was going IP based. So we started teaching what was called black core routing back in 2013. And I went to NIFECOM in 2014, and we were all black core routing at that point. We didn't use serial communications, and at that point, we were tied to gear, which was using serial-based communication. So at that point, it was either stay and become a communicator, again, a 06 with data guys and become a comm chief, or go do cybersecurity, which I saw on the front based on my master's degree. I saw cyber being the truth. And so actually, it was my IT and project management. We saw cyber becoming the thing to do, and I jumped ship to do cybersecurity in Marine Corps, and I never looked back. I think it's the one MOS that keeps growing. You have to keep learning, you have to keep studying, you have to keep reading, because you'll never cap out. You will never top out at what is the ultimate knowledge. You can't. It's infinite.
No, 100%. So for those people listening right now and watching the podcast, what importance, like whether they're new to the MOS, seasoned, or just interested in cybersecurity, what would you give them as a tip for increasing their knowledge?
Stay hungry. Take small chunks. Don't try to gorge it all in, because you're gonna get full and then you won't want to eat anymore, right? For a little while. So if you take small bites, take small chunks, you'll always be hungry for some piece of cyber, because it's so vast. You could take a bite in web, you could take a bite in exploit dev, you could take a bite in network, you could take a bite in just AD building, right? Active Directory building. And then another bite of Active Directory hacking, right? There's so many chunks of cyber that you can take small bites in that you'll stay hungry and you won't feel overwhelmed, because it can be overwhelming when you try to dive in face first, and the learning curve can be just straight up, too high. And I think a lot of us have ambitions to be the best, but we don't have practicality when we are going to attack it. It's not practical to just take it all in at once. It's more practical to start from a baseline. Start with coding, right? Start with one language. Go is a up and coming, or it is a language to go to. NIM is an up and coming language, NIM, and also Python. Obviously, everybody knows Python is one of those. Python PowerShell, right? The basis of coding. I think one of those four, I could keep naming, but one of those four for scripting is probably the baseline for what you need to be successful with whatever domain of cyber you go in.
No, I love it. And just going on with what Master Guns was just talking about, like I started as a international relations major. So not your regular STEM, and I'll be the first to say it took a learning curve, absolutely, because I didn't major in computer science coming out of college or anything like that. And what I can say is the resources are out there. If you're hungry, you literally go to this company. Some of you heard about it, called Google, and you type, coding, you type Python, you type any language you want. You type web development tools or network analysis, or really any keyword you can possibly think of. Again, keep that look small and narrow in the beginning, because it's a whole new world, right? And there's a lot of stuff out there. And if you're trying to, become a cybersecurity expert overnight, well, from zero to hero, you will not succeed. I'm just going to be completely honest.
Oh, face first.
You're gonna be overwhelmed. So, figure out, okay, what's the first thing that I need to look at? A lot of people look at certifications like your A+, your network plus, your security plus, and the like. And then we're actually going to talk about one of the harder certifications later today with Master Guns OSCP. But there's OSCP on the offensive side. There's other offensive certifications, and then there's CISSP, which is more, as you are in this field for a while and you're continuing to serve in a leadership position, you'll look at those. So there's a journey. So I want to be completely upfront and frank, especially for a person who started not in communications or in cybersecurity, is, just take a breath and build the foundation first. And then you're gonna start finding, oh, I'm really interested in cloud security, okay, or I'm really interested in mobile applications and stuff like that, and then you just go from there.
That's a whole nother ball game too, cloud security. I won't even get into that, but what I will, when you're building your repertoire in cyber, I think balance. Everybody says this keyword balance, but they don't really know what that means, and I'm trying to finish out what that means for me in a defined way and actionable, measurable way for others. So I haven't put this article out that I've been biting on and writing on how the pillars, right? The pillars of balance. But what I will say is time is one of those things it has to be factored in. Time is interesting because when I study, I usually try to dedicate 3 hours at night, and that's pretty high for a guy with a family and all kind of other things that he's doing. But I would say, man, if somebody can dedicate 30 minutes, whether it's 30 minutes at lunch, whether it's 30 minutes at night or an hour at night, maybe 30 minutes at lunch and then an hour at night. The key there is to dedicate a solid time to learn whatever it is you're learning and take notes. We'll get into it in a moment, but I think that one of the key things that helped me be successful when it came to OSCP and another couple other certs was note taking, like detailed note taking, where I can come back and teach myself what it was that I learned to be successful. But to your point, if you want to be successful in cyber or anything, you need to dedicate that time to it, just like you would at the gym. If you do an hour in the gym or 45 minutes every day or every other day, you know, you're putting that time in to build muscle or lose weight or whatever your goal is.
Mhm. No, I love it. Yeah, the timepiece, and I promise I won't beat this up too much, but Master Gun is absolutely right. So that balance piece. I mean, we're both fathers and husbands, so that's huge. Like, you know, we go hard at work, but we also go hard for our families, and family at the end of the day, like they're gonna be there when you take off the uniform, and everything like that. So gotta make sure you're taking care of that. If you are a person who owns a smartphone or any type of phone for that matter, just audit yourself. Because I got a notification today and it was like, your screen time is down 18%. And then you realize, okay, if I can spend X amount of time on my smartphone, and am I doing anything that's actually bettering me? So if you get those notifications, great. It's easier for you to audit yourself. If you don't, just take the time over this next week. So the plan is for this podcast to come out probably Friday, right? So we'll send out some teasers throughout the week, but that'll give you time to say, okay, I'm going to audit myself over this next week and really understand how you're using your time, and make those adjustments to trade out. Again, I love how Master Gun says it, like, 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there. Because if you say 3 hours or 4 hours, or I'm 5 hours, it's harder for you to make that adjustment, especially right away, or cold turkey, so to speak, right? But you have 15 minutes. Trust me, you have 15 minutes. And
Hey,
you start doing that.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but
No, you're good.
Here's the key right here, right? And maybe it's just me, but most people on the toilet for about 15, 20 minutes when they doing what they gotta do. You know?
I was gonna say it.
Hey, you don't think that's my study hall? That's my study hall, dude. Like 100%. I read, I'm studying, I'm looking at videos, I'm literally taking in knowledge at that point. And then, I'm pushing out knowledge and taking in knowledge.
Yeah, no, I tell my wife all the time, and people are gonna be like, this podcast went off the rails. But no, seriously, you're everywhere.
It's practical though, you know. You might as well take advantage of it, right? Don't look at TikTok. Don't be on YouTube if it's not knowledge, knowledge gaining. Don't do it. Me, I'm a habitual LinkedIn surfer, right? I like to see what the jobs are. I like to see what people are doing. So I have to tell myself, no LinkedIn today. You're gonna look at Python video or TCM. I was looking at the Cyber Mentors PTH. I've been viewing that, right? I've been reviewing the web portion of it so I can get my web skills back up, so I take the time wherever I can get it and study.
Being super real, anywhere and everywhere. Make sure you get that knowledge in. Yeah. So, hey, look, I'll be in the, so if you're listening to this for the first time, Toyful Hoon Hackers TH2 has a Slack channel. And if you want accountability and you want to talk to other people who are motivated and who are doing the same thing as you, getting their knowledge on, making sure that they're continuing to grow in this field, even if this is not your MOS. I want to be clear. If you are in the Marine Corps or you are supporting the Marine Corps community, even if you are not in the 1700 MOS or the 0600 MOS, I don't care. And you want to learn more about what's going on in cyberspace operations because it's a warfighting domain, right? Information. Hit us up. Join the TH2 Slack channel, and that'll enable you to kind of network and work with other people who are trying to figure out the same things, family life balance, or however you want to word that, what that means to you, and just what their approach is on a daily basis. Because exactly what Master Gun is saying, it's a daily thing. You can't do it every other day, can't do it every once a month. It's got to be somehow a part of your daily battle road. So, and talking about that and growing yourself and making yourself better, we're going to specifically, from time to time, everyone who's in this community has something that they're focused on. And we're lucky to have someone who's a go-getter like Master Gun Smith, who went after their OSCP, which is like absolutely insane. It's a storied offensive cybersecurity certification. I'm not going to steal his thunder. It is a doozy, okay, to use a very nice term for it. But Master Gun, tell us about, so tell us what OSCP stands for and why you went after that one, and then we'll just go into the journey and just hear more about it.
Well, OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Professional, of course, everybody knows about that. or should, even if you're not in security. It's one of those premier offensive pen testing certs because they throw the wall at you. They throw bricks at you. Even when you start the labs, it's 300 and some page PDF. So it's massive. I think like 18 chapters. But what I'll say is I started when I got interested in pen testing. It was semi-interested. It was after I finished cybersecurity defensive school. I did CEH because the question I had was, okay, you taught me all this defensive things, but what am I defending? How, I'm a wrestler, right? So the best offense is a guy who can defend, but I need to know what the offense is, right? So I looked at CEH, got certified to CEH, kind of understood more of what an attacker could do when I'm implementing defensive policies. And then a couple years later, I get a chance to do OSCE, which is Offensive Certified Expert Professional. It is actually a tier above OSCP. It's one that makes you cry. And I'll say I literally teared when I failed it the first time. It's a 48-hour exam. You learn how to create exploits from scratch using x86 assembly. It was painful, a painful 48 hours, my first go around in 2020. And I studied x86 at assembly on my own. I learned everything on my own. And then I took the test. And this is no prior knowledge of any assembly, any scripting, or any language for that matter. But I passed it the second time around about 6 weeks later after I failed it, after tending to the weak areas that I had. I'll say this, it took over a year to be ready to finish that exam. I started it in November of 2018 and I didn't pass it. And that's starting to learn x86 and all of that. And I didn't pass that exam till July of 2020. So almost just short of 2 years to pass that one cert. So OSCP, fast forward, right? Here I am, I'm thinking, oh, I got OSCE. I'll pass OSCP on the first time. Not the case. I started OSCP. I started softly by using Hack the Box. Hack the Box is a virtual platform that allows you to pen test or break into machines legally, right? And so I started with Hack the Box about a month or two, or about a box every month or two. And then I started OSCP in December of 2020, actually, right after I finished OSCP, about 6 months later. I started OSCE. I started OSCP December of 2020. And I finished the course, the lab, the material. It took me 50, and I recorded this, 54 days to finish all of the material from beginning to end. 54 days dedicated, 3 hours a day, 54 days with work, with kids, with everything I had going on. And that was just to finish the course. This is not even getting into the lab, right? Because if you have, if you do all of the exercises, at that time it was 5 extra points. So I was like, I'll take it wherever I can get it, right?
Yeah.
So 5 extra points. It took me 54 days, and then I did 30 more days of just lab work, which I only got like 19 boxes or 19 or 20 boxes that I end up getting root. And so then I waited a little bit more, did some more hack the box boxes for another 6 to 8 weeks. And I took the test the first time in July of 2021. Well, it was not pretty. Everybody says you failed your first time. I was one of those everybody's. I did not do well. In fact, having OSCE, I didn't study the buffer overflow portion at all. I was like, I got OSCE, I can do this, right? No studying of the OSCE means atrophy. No study of x86 assembly shell code, it means atrophy. So I got on the exam. I started doing a basic buffer overflow, and they caught me with some characters that I was not looking at. I just didn't see it at all. And then when I went back afterwards, I punched myself in the face because I didn't do the basics. I didn't finger it, which I call finger it, touching everything to make sure all my characters are there. I messed up royally. So I didn't even get the buffer overflow for points. I got one box that I ended up getting in half a box that I got a foothold on. Not enough to pass. Now, I did all that by myself, hacking everything by myself. In August of 21, I got a partner from Discord, actually, within Office of Security's Discord channel. And he and I, a guy from Netherlands, I believe, we would sync up every night and we would pen test with each other. We would go on Proving Grounds, which is Offensive Security's platform for hacking boxes. We would go on Proving Grounds and we would do pen testing. We took the whole lot of boxes and we split them among each other. So he did one half and I did one half. So when we flop, we could use each other for hints, right? And for talking through what we should be thinking about. And that was the key to me passing. I'll say this, I'll fast forward. So he and I did that all the way to December of 21. I took the test again. I failed by 10 points. I failed because I did not turn my attention to my weakness, which is web hacking. Because I couldn't do SQL injection, period. That's exactly why I failed. I even took the same vulnerable apps. I took them down, downloaded them off the web, had them on a box, and I ended up getting it, but only after I studied what my weakness was. So I signed up again. This time they changed the rules. You had to do Active Directory this time. So I was like, oh man. So I got 30 days. My US Cybercom paid for 30 days lab time for me. So I did hacking of the new format, Active Directory, etc. In March of 2022. I took the test. I would have passed, but the environment was jacked up, so they gave me another chance. And I also had another lab partner that went with me. So I found a new partner on Offensive Security's Discord channel.
Yeah.
So I had another guy that we hacked together. He was in England, and he and I, we did it together up until March when I took it. We both took it, in fact, and the environment was jacked up, and he didn't pass and I didn't pass because they gave us another chance. I ended up taking the test before him in April 1st. I was ready. I felt ready. I only needed one more box to pass, even without the Active Directory points, which is 40 points. And I went in and crushed it. I crushed it on April 1st. I knew what I had to do. My notes were tight. For a reason. And I tested every vulnerable action technique you can think of. I did everything, how to even find out what was a rabbit hole or not. Essentially, my craft was sharp, and I went in and I had passing points within, I don't know, within 12 hours, I was already passed. I had already passed, right? So, but I kept going because I wanted all the boxes. And by the end of it, I passed. I didn't get one of the boxes. I had 80 points, even with the lab that I turned in. They would have gave me 90 points because they gave you 10 points at that point. And so I would have had 90 points passing. And thank God, because I passed. That's a long story, but it takes a while because of the dedication and time to even pass such a hard certification. It really does. It's not easy. It takes a lot of notes. It takes a lot of practice. I did over 100 boxes in Proving Grounds alone. Not even Hack the Box or any of the lab. In just Proving Grounds on Offensive Security, I did over 100 boxes. And that put me at like the top. At one point, I was at the top 15 people in that environment. Now I don't know where I'm at because I'm not in there, but it just takes that much to be able to say, here's my methodology, here's my craft, I know how to do it without blinking. And that's my story. Yeah.
No, that's phenomenal. And I wish we had more opportunities to sit down like this. That's why we're bringing you this podcast, because it's essentially you being able to sit down with Master Guns and hear his story. I mean, from the origin to the Marine Corps, from changing over from the 06 Community 17 series, and then also, no kidding, getting after it and increasing his knowledge. This is not an overnight success thing. I mean, it took over a year of preparation. It took a lot of practice just in the training environment itself, just to get to game day. And even game day took you know, a long time. This is a love of the journey. And if you don't love the journey, this is probably not a great career field for you.
No.
Because once you master something too, right? It could change, or you know, whether it changes drastically or slightly, that's to be determined, but it's going to change. So you got to be excited about just, you know, staying up with your knowledge, working with the community. I love the fact that you did this like tag team buddy system with other people who are trying to get after it, right? Like, you don't have to be alone. All right. No, I don't want anybody else to know that, you know, I'm trying to do this. I got to do it on my own. And then I emerge victorious, you know, after.
That was my mistake. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That was my mistake when I did OSCE and OSCP. In fact, when I passed OSCE the second time, it was because I had people from LinkedIn that I reached out to, and some military and prior military that got with me and taught me the things that I was lacking or cleared up those things. And OSCP, again, just other people trying to get at it. And honestly, that's success, doing it with somebody, having somebody with you struggle through the journey, and you guys emerged victorious. In fact, all of those people I studied with passed the exams, and we attribute that success to each other, you know.
100%. And I mean, teamwork and just getting after it, not having to do any, like, no one's going to judge you. Like, and Master Guns, you can tell me whether this is true or not. I'll say it's definitely true for myself. What I have learned when I'm learning stuff, and I don't want other people to know maybe how ignorant I am on a subject, is I am the hardest on myself. Because as soon as I ask the question, people I have found are like more than happy to help me. And I was like, man, I should have just asked a long time ago. So
even, yes, 100%. I found, like, asking the simple stuff, even if they give you a snarky answer, they're really still willing to help you. They may just give you a hard. Like, there were some easy boxes. There were some easy techniques that I wasn't really thinking through. And I asked that partner, hey, how did you get this? And they respond, really? You know, like, seriously? And I'm like, man, I don't know it. And then once they tell you, you're like, oh, but what that does is creates a map in your mind to think through these simple things so you can get those out the way and focus on the hard stuff. That's what I found was a whole lot more interesting in asking those simple questions, because now when I go to a box, I quickly scan through the easy stuff, right? The simple stuff, simple password changes, simple passwords, admin. You know, I have a whole lot of things that I copy paste to just get through the easy stuff. Then once I know the easy stuff out of the way, now I can start thinking out the box of, okay, if this is vulnerable, what are some of the actionable things I can do as a user that I can take advantage of to execute this vulnerability, right? So that's what having a partner does, helps you think through a methodology, a technique that is that you're not thinking through. And these guys, the first guy I did was better than me, right? He was like single. That's the key, right? Single, no kids, no girlfriend, just screaming through boxes. He was like doing my box. I'm like, hey, he's like, hey man, I'm done. But I didn't mind. With his knowledge, I was able to gain more knowledge on my own, you know, in my own accord. And then I became the guy who was faster than the other guy from England, and teaching him how to think through the problem, think through the set, you know, and think through that methodology. So don't feel nefarious, or not nefarious, but the word I'm looking for is I guess dumb. Don't feel dumb when you're asking a question to somebody who's smarter. You're actually going to build up your repertoire, and then you will be a mentor or a guide for somebody else that's asking you the same question.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you know, if you have a weakness, I love for that piece that you were also sharing is that everything that you were like, oh man, yeah, I'm good on that, and you're like, man, that's exactly what I should have studied. Like the thing that I felt comfortable with, that's foundational. Go back and like confirm, you know, that you were actually comfortable with that, and fill in any gaps, and that was awesome.
Yeah. So now I'll just end with this: is as I look forward, right? I'm actually going back into exploit development, right? I did OSCE in 2020. I haven't really been touching it because I don't have a job that, you know, being a senior leader in the Marine Corps doesn't give you the opportunity to do things technical. That don't mean you can't, right?
Right.
But it doesn't give me the opportunity to develop exploits, right? So now I'm going to go back into OSED, the new course for OSCP. But what I'm doing, I mean OSCE, but what I'm doing now is I am focusing on relearning what I already knew back in 2020, and foundationally, because everything's in Python 3 and not Python 2 like it was, I'm going through a course, small chunks, small bites, to redefine what it means to code in Python 3, which is not that big a deal, but I don't want to leave no stone unturned, because everything you're going to learn in OSED is in Python 3. So I'm going to study Python 3 from now till I start the course in September. I'm going to study all the things I learned from OSCE in 2020, and I'm going to be prepared to take this course when I started in September to earn my OSED exploit development certification. So it definitely pays to do things at the base level again, to relearn what you already knew, to get comfortable with those techniques. And also, I also want to say that as a senior leader, and I'll say gunnery sergeant and up, don't make the excuse that, oh, I'm on a keyboard, I can't really be technical anymore. That's a lie. I've been technical since I got even more technical after gunnery sergeant, in fact, in the Marine Corps. And being in J7, I'm actually in a great position as a technical leader, because we do exercises which trains our defenders and our offensive service members. And next month, I'm actually in the Op 4. I'll be a part of the red team when we attack our blue team defenders with a host nation, with another nation that we're going to be exercising. So I'm thrilled. I'm excited to be a master gunnery sergeant, still on keyboard, still doing things, still able to. And if it is still, even though it's not every day, I'm still getting an opportunity to apply my skills that I've learned on my own to service not only our country, but service other countries as well.
Love it. I love it. Absolutely. And we talk about that, just technical and tactical proficiency and getting after it. And Master Sergeant Smith is absolutely the golden standard for that. We're going to break out into two quick questions here, because it's important to understand the full Marine, full service member piece. So you've heard about, the history piece, you've heard about the technical piece. We just want to quickly go into two questions about just kind of what makes you that whole human being, and specifically, what are some ways that you practice being creative? So outside of being on the keyboard and being in the office.
Balance is a word that a lot of people hear but can't define or can't attribute to life practicality, right? I think for me, balance is financial, balance is physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, and it's timely, right? I think that for me, outside of work, outside of being technical and stuff, I have to really be sensible and conscious of the time I spend with my family, right? I think that they need me more and more now that my kids are getting older. I have two girls and they're getting older, and they really need to be shaped and mentored more than any of the people around me. So I need to spend more time with them. I need to see what their likes and quirks are, and see what makes them a better person, and seed in them values and morals that will help them be a better citizen in their adult life. And I think that part of that is volunteering a lot more outside of work. So I do Young Marines, a nonprofit organization. I'm a volunteer for the Young Marines. I'm also at Post 109, which is historic Elk Ridge. I run a junior shooting program for air rifles. I'm teaching that right now. I should be getting back with one of the local high schools to do Cyber Patriot again, which is cyber techniques and knowledge, right? And then doing a competition, right? They do a cyber competition hosted by the Air Force or ran by the Air Force. So those are some of the things, and my kids are involved in 2 of the 3 of those, right? So they don't do Cyber Patriot because they're not in high school yet, but they do the rifle program. They do the Young Marines, and here soon I'll probably be coaching wrestling because one of my kids are going to start wrestling this year, and so I'll probably be helping that with coaching wrestling. But so a lot of my non-technical things are to help balance the rest of my life, which is more, to me, is more important than being a technical expert, being a cyber ninja, because once I'm off keyboard, my fingers break today. If I go blind, I can't do anything with those skill sets, but basically spit out knowledge. But my kids will be there forever. My family will be there forever. So I got to make sure that I pour into them more than I'm pouring into myself. Hope that answers the question, sir.
100%. No, I love that. Absolutely. Keep building the whole person. There's a lot of people who are consider themselves new to the community, and you feel overwhelmed. Understand you don't need to be on keyboard 100% of the time. You got to build that whole person and have interest outside of even the technical piece. It's honestly one, it's going to make you a better rounded person, and it's going to give you that balance that you need so that you can go back resting, refitted, and ready to go to work again.
I think though, sometimes I think even too, just to add to that, like you can still keep your technical acumen by teaching others how to be technical. And one of the things that I have is CCNA. I taught CCNA as an instructor at the Marine Corps, but because I don't touch a router at all or a switch, how do I keep fresh? How do I make sure I keep my knowledge, right? Other than taking a cert and studying for a cert, was teaching somebody else. In Cyber Patriot, I am the last team I taught, I was the CCNA or routing instructor. So what that did for me was make sure I studied some more CCNA stuff and taught what I was learning or knew to those high school students, which they did spectacular in the competition. They went further than they ever went at that school in all facets of the domain, because I had other mentors that were with me teaching them in routing, Linux, and Windows. So it was a fantastic team, and I hope to replicate that here in the future. So that will help not only get away from technical stuff, but also teaching it will help you stay relevant in those areas of IT and cybersecurity. Yep.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of teaching, the last question, is there anyone that you would recommend that would be a propagator of knowledge, education, and resources? So POCR, that made up acronym for a future show that you think would be able to share with the Brute podcast, the Brute Force podcast knowledge audience here?
I actually do. We have a retiring Major Ireland, Major Lorenzo Ireland. He and I just spoke yesterday. He's a mentor I reach out to. Actually, he's a freaking wealth of knowledge. He's passionate about learning. He will talk your head off as well. So be careful what you ask for. But it's all in good. It's all in good nature, right? He's just passionate, and he's great at conveying the knowledge that he's gained to those who want to learn. And Major Ireland, Lorenzo Ireland, just about to be retired. Major Lorenzo Ireland is a perfect person to follow up. He's actually the guy who got me in OSCE, or my first practical. Actually, it was my first hands-on certification, and he's the one that actually got me down this path. I would say I can attribute my success story to him, because I would never have jumped on OSCE if he didn't convince me to do it. So I think Major Ireland has a wealth of knowledge as a CPT lead. He's been on a service CPT. He's been on a national CPT. He's been on the national offensive security team. I think this dude is just amazing. His depth of knowledge is above par, and he could definitely attribute something that any Marine out there wants to learn from, especially if you're in the Slack channel that we have. He's somebody you can reach out to that will drop whatever he's doing to teach you what you need, or at least give you the resources you need to push forward. So reach out to Major Lorenzo Ireland, soon to be retired.
Yeah.
You'll be the one I have come on this podcast.
100%. Huge fan of Major Lorenzo Ireland. We're coming for you. We're going to ask you to be on the upcoming episode of Brute Force podcast. So no, very exciting. First of all, Master Gunnery, this was absolutely a phenomenal episode. You just came spitting fire with your knowledge, sharing your history, sharing your methodology, giving us a glimpse at, family life and how to get after that while operating in what's, a never ending community that just keeps on going. So we really, really appreciate your time. And what's a good way to reach out to you? What's the best method?
I think the easiest way to get me is probably LinkedIn. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Lagarian Smith on LinkedIn, or you can hit me on Twitter. If you want to hit me on Twitter, I am Lagarian Smith on Twitter. And if you're in the Slack channel, I am Black Thunder in the Slack channel. In Slack at Black Thunder, and the 2400 Slack channel, you can get at me then. But I am available to any and all who want to progress themselves and progress their careers.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes, and we'll keep everybody informed. Master Gunners, again, appreciate you for being on the show, and thank you everybody for listening.